The galaxy had many rulers, but none were as feared as the Alien Warlord. He commanded fleets that could burn planets in hours. His name was enough to silence armies. When he looked at Earth, he did not see warriors. He saw insects. He thought humanity was weak, small, and easy to crush. The warlord came with fire and thunder. His ships filled the sky like black clouds. His soldiers laughed as they destroyed human defenses. Cities fell, space stations burned. In only a short time, humanity's fleet was broken, scattered and silent. The people of Earth cried out for hope, but the warlord wanted them to know despair. He did not just want victory, he wanted humiliation. So when the battle ended, he did not kill all the survivors. Instead, he appeared before them, tall, armored, and proud. He spoke in a voice that shook the ground. "You humans fought bravely, but bravery is not strength," he mocked. "You rise quickly, but you fall faster like weak flames." Then with a cruel smile he revealed his gift. It was a weapon, or what once had been one. Now it was broken, twisted, and useless. He tossed it before the human leaders like garbage. "This is all you deserve," he said. "Try to rebuild your strength with this piece of junk." The alien armies roared with laughter. To them it was the final insult. Not only had humans been beaten, but now they were mocked. The broken weapon was nothing but a reminder of failure. And yet, even as they stood in shame, the humans did not look away. Some of them clenched their fists, some of them looked at the broken object with quiet eyes. They saw something the warlord did not. They saw a puzzle, a mystery, and maybe even a chance. The warlord thought he had ended the human spirit, but he had only lit a fire. Humans have always lived with broken things. They have always survived by repairing, rebuilding, and reimagining. A broken tool to them was never trash. It was the start of something new. But the warlord, in his pride, could not see that. As he left, his voice echoed through the stars. "This is the end of your story," he declared. But for humanity, it was only the beginning, because they did not see the broken weapon as a curse. They saw it as a challenge, and humans have always loved challenges. In the days that followed, the warlord celebrated his victory. His fleets spread across other systems, conquering more worlds. He never thought about the gift again. To him, it was forgotten trash, a cruel joke. But back on Earth, scientists and engineers gathered around it. Soldiers guarded it as if it was treasure. Ordinary people whispered about it in the streets. They called it the broken gift, and they wanted to know its secrets. Even in defeat, humanity did not surrender. The broken fleets were hidden, survivors spread across colonies, and whispers of rebellion filled the air. Every time people looked at the gift, they remembered the warlord's laughter. Every time they remembered his words, their anger grew stronger. This anger was not despair, it was fuel. It was the kind of anger that builds hope. It was the kind of anger that drives people to fight again. The warlord thought he had won, but he had planted the seed of his own defeat. Because humans are different, they do not always need perfect weapons. They only need one chance, one small mistake from their enemy. And that broken gift was exactly that mistake. The stars were quiet now. The battle was over. But under that silence, something powerful was growing. The warlord would not notice until it was too late, because while he laughed at humans for being weak, humans were already preparing to rise. The broken gift lay on the table of a secret lab, its surface scarred, its circuits dead. But when human hands touched it, there was no fear. There was curiosity, there was determination, and there was a whisper that spread across the world. If this is all he thinks we are worth, then we will prove him wrong. The challenge had begun. The warlord had given them more than a broken weapon. He had given them a reason, and when humans have a reason, they can turn even broken things into power. The broken gift rested inside a human laboratory, cold and silent. It was made of black. Metal scarred with battle and full of cracks. At first sight, it looked like nothing but trash, a toy left behind after a storm. Many leaders of Earth wanted to throw it away, saying it was an insult. Some even said keeping it would remind humanity of their shame. But a few voices disagreed, and those voices were enough to begin something new. Among them was Dr. Elias Kane. An old scientist with tired eyes, he looked at the broken weapon with a strange smile. "Aliens may see this as garbage," he whispered. "But humans see broken things differently." Around him stood younger engineers, soldiers, and thinkers. All of them carried wounds of war, scars on their bodies and hearts. Yet their eyes shone with a fire that the alien warlord could not kill. They began their work. The weapon was heavy, its shell almost indestructible. Strange wires ran inside, twisted and cut. Symbols glowed faintly, as if alive. No one knew how it was built. No one understood the patterns. But instead of fear, there was excitement, because every broken part told a story. Every crack held a secret. Day after day, the scientists studied it. They argued, they failed, they tried again. Sometimes sparks flew, sometimes smoke filled the lab. Sometimes the weapon seemed to hum, as if it was laughing at them. And yet, the humans did not stop. Failure was not the end. It was only another step. At night, soldiers guarded the lab with silent respect. They looked through the glass at the glowing table. Some of them thought, "This is useless. It will never work." But others felt something different. They felt a strange hope, because if the aliens gave this as a joke, then turning it into power would be the greatest revenge. One night, a young engineer named Mira stayed late. Her hands were shaking. As she touched the circuits, she whispered to herself, "Why does this feel familiar?" The pattern inside the weapon reminded her of something. It was not alien, at least not fully. It was something humans had seen before, hidden in their own mathematics. Her discovery spread through the team like fire. The broken gift was not just a weapon. It was also a map written in code that only humans could fully understand. The next day, Dr. Kane spoke to the leaders of Earth. He held up a piece of the broken weapon and said, "You see a joke, but I see an opportunity." He pointed at the glowing symbols and explained how they linked with human science. "Maybe the warlord wanted to insult us, but he made a mistake," Kane declared. "He gave us knowledge he never thought we could use." Some leaders laughed, some doubted, but others listened, and slowly their doubts turned into belief. They realized that the warlord's arrogance had blinded him. He had given away a seed of power without knowing it. Now it was up to humanity to water that seed. Workshops came alive across Earth and its colonies. Every human mind that could read numbers or wires was called to join. The broken gift was copied, scanned, and studied from every angle. It was no longer trash, it was treasure. It was hope wrapped in metal, and hope was more dangerous than any alien fleet. Weeks passed and strange things began to happen. Pieces of the weapon started reacting to human machines. Circuits lit up when connected to human power sources. Energy pulsed in patterns, soft at first, then stronger. The scientists realized that this so-called broken weapon was not fully dead. It was sleeping, waiting for the right hands to wake it up. And those hands were human. The alien warlord never imagined this. He thought humans would cry, break, and forget. But instead they turned his insult into obsession. He wanted to kill their spirit, but instead he sharpened it. And now, humanity was walking a path that he had unknowingly opened. Dr. Kane wrote in his journal one night, "The warlord believes we are finished. But in this broken gift lies something more than science. It is a test of who we are, and I believe we will pass." The stars above Earth glowed quietly. The warlord's fleets were far away, busy with conquest. He did not know that, in a hidden lab, his broken joke was becoming humanity's greatest weapon. And though it was still incomplete, still dangerous, the humans could already feel it. Something was waiting inside the gift, something the aliens had never dared to use, and now it belonged to humanity. The broken gift was no longer a symbol of defeat. It was the beginning of a new story. And that story was only just starting to unfold. The broken gift no longer felt like trash. It had become a mystery, a puzzle that pulled every human mind deeper. Every day, new details were uncovered, details the alien warlord had never imagined humans would notice. At first, they believed It was only a failed weapon, something too unstable to use. But the deeper they looked, the more it felt like a message, a riddle hidden inside layers of metal and light. Mira, the young engineer, could not let go of her strange feeling. She stared at the glowing lines inside the device night after night. It was not just alien code, she thought, it was something more. The design felt like it had been waiting for human eyes to read it. Every curve, every line, every circuit seemed to echo human logic. She whispered to herself, "It is almost as if this weapon was meant for us." Dr. Kane listened carefully. When Mira shared her thoughts, he frowned, old and wise, but his eyes brightened. "If that is true," he said, "then the warlord's arrogance gave us not a joke, but a hidden gift." The others in the lab gathered around as Mira showed them the patterns. When the alien script was rearranged in a human sequence, a shape appeared. It was not random. It was a design, a small engine, a new kind of core. The lab went silent. The weight of discovery pressed against their chests. They had uncovered a secret the aliens themselves had abandoned. The warlord's empire had once tried to use this technology, but it was unstable, uncontrollable, and dangerous. The aliens feared it, so they called it a failure and buried it in the past. But humans were different. Where aliens saw danger, humans saw possibility. Where others saw failure, humans saw challenge. And so the hidden secret inside the broken gift became humanity's new obsession. The scientists worked day and night. They created simulations, tested models, and built small replicas. Every attempt failed at first. Explosions shook the lab. Circuits burned. But each failure gave them more knowledge. They were not afraid of falling. They were only afraid of not trying. And that was the difference between humans and the warlord. Meanwhile, outside the labs, whispers spread across Earth and its colonies. The people did not know all the details, but they heard enough. They heard that the broken gift was not useless. They heard that humanity had found something powerful inside it. And those whispers became stories, stories of hidden power, stories of a secret weapon that would one day rise. Hope grew again, strong and unstoppable. One evening, Mira placed her hand on the glowing core. She closed her eyes and felt the vibration. The weapon was not dead, it was sleeping, and it was waiting for the right hands to awaken it. In that moment, she understood something that chilled her blood. The warlord had not just given them a piece of junk. He had unknowingly given them a part of his own empire's lost technology. Technology that his people feared too much to touch. But now, in human hands, it was alive again. Dr. Kane gathered his team. He spoke with a voice that shook with both fear and pride. "Listen to me," he said. "This is not only about science. This is about survival. If we succeed, we will rise again. If we fail, the warlord will crush us forever." The team nodded, their faces pale but determined. They knew there was no turning back. The hidden secret inside the broken gift was now their future. In the skies above Earth, the warlord's fleet still roamed. He believed humanity was broken. He believed the gift was nothing but a cruel joke. He never checked, never watched, never cared. But if he had, he would have seen something terrifying. He would have seen humans doing what they always do, turning defeat into strength, turning pain into power. The secret was clear now. The broken weapon was not a failure. It was an unfinished masterpiece. The aliens had given up on it, but humans were finishing what they could not, and in that difference lay the true power of humanity. The warlord had mocked them, but he had also armed them. He had given them the one thing he feared most, knowledge. Late one night, as Mira and Kane stared at the glowing machine, the core flickered, alive for just a moment. A wave of energy filled the room. Lights shook, glass cracked. Everyone froze in silence, their hearts racing, and then the core went dark again. But Mira smiled through the smoke and said, "It works. It really works." The hidden secret was no longer hidden. It was awake. And soon the alien warlord would discover the cost of his cruel joke. The broken gift had revealed its secret, but unlocking that secret was not easy. The core flickered. once but then went silent again, as if testing the humans who touched it. The scientists could not understand why it worked for only a moment. But instead of despair, their hearts filled with fire, because failure was not defeat for humanity. Failure was only the next step. Inside the hidden labs of Earth, day and night blurred together. Teams of engineers worked until their hands shook. Soldiers guarded the doors, bringing food and water, watching with quiet respect. Even when explosions shook the walls, even when smoke filled the air, no one stopped. Every setback was a lesson, every mistake a clue. This was the human spirit. To fall, to rise, and to rise again. Mira kept repeating the same words whenever exhaustion made others falter. "We are not broken, we are learning," she whispered. Her voice carried strength beyond her years. Dr. Kane, old and weary, often looked at her with pride. "She carries the same fire I once had," he thought, and that fire became the heart of their work. The people outside the lab were the same. Colonies that had once cried in despair now began to rebuild. Families cleared the ruins of their cities, turning rubble into homes. Farmers planted crops in damaged soil. Children played in the shadows of broken towers, their laughter a quiet defiance. Hope returned slowly, not with shouts, but with silent determination. Humanity was moving, step by step toward survival. The alien warlord did not see it. He feasted on his victories, celebrated with his warriors. In his pride, he believed the humans had no spirit left. But spirit cannot be measured with fleets or weapons. Spirit is found in the way hands refuse to stop working, in the way eyes refuse to stop searching, and in the way hearts refuse to stop believing. Every day Mira returned to the core. She adjusted the circuits, rewrote the codes, tested the energy flows. Sometimes it sparked, sometimes it failed, sometimes it almost killed her. But she never stopped. Dr. Kane often warned her, "This is dangerous, too dangerous." But she would smile and answer, "So is living under the warlord's shadow." The team grew stronger as they grew closer. They laughed together in rare moments, shared food like family. When one fell from exhaustion, others carried their load. When one doubted, others reminded them why they fought. They were not just scientists and engineers anymore. They had become soldiers of knowledge, and their battlefield was the broken gift. Weeks turned into months. Then one night, when the storms of Earth raged outside, the core awakened again. But this time it did not flicker and die. It pulsed, strong and steady, filling the room with a deep hum. The lights grew brighter, shadows danced on the walls. The humans stared in awe, fear mixing with joy. For the first time, they felt the true power of what they had unlocked. Mira's hands trembled, but she did not step back. She whispered, "It listens to us. It answers us." Dr. Kane placed a hand on her shoulder and nodded. "This is not alien anymore, this is ours now." Word of the awakening spread quickly. Soldiers in the hall smiled. People in nearby colonies whispered with excitement. The broken gift was no longer just hope. It was proof. Proof that humanity could take what was given to mock them and turn it into strength. Proof that they were not finished. And that proof gave the people courage they had not felt in years. The warlord still celebrated his victory far away. He drank, laughed, and declared humanity dead. But in the shadows of his arrogance, humanity was being reborn. Their spirit was sharper than any blade, their will was stronger than any fleet, and their hope was brighter than any star. The lab trembled with the energy of the awakened core. Machines lit up, screens filled with impossible readings. The scientists shouted with joy but also with fear, because the power inside was more than they could yet control. It was like holding fire with bare hands, beautiful but dangerous. Still, no one turned away. Instead, they leaned closer, ready to take the risk. Dr. Kane wrote again in his journal that night, "Hope is not a weapon, but it builds weapons. Courage is not a shield, but it creates shields. The warlord gave us broken metal, but we found our spirit inside it, and that spirit will lead us to victory." The night was long, but no one slept. The human spirit had awakened with the core, and both were only growing stronger. The alien warlord did not know it yet, but the humans he mocked were already preparing to return. The storm outside Earth's atmosphere raged like thunder, but inside the lab a different storm was rising. The core of the broken gift pulsed with light, steady and alive, no longer flickering like a dying flame. The humans stood around it, their faces lit by the strange glow, their hearts racing with awe. It was no longer a dead relic, it was breathing, humming like a heartbeat. The awakening had begun. Mira's hands shook as she adjusted the controls. The readings on the monitors were impossible, energy levels climbing beyond known science. She whispered, "It is alive. It wants to speak." Dr. Kane leaned closer, his eyes reflecting the blue light. "This is not a weapon," he said slowly. "It is something more, something greater." But even as he spoke, the core pulsed stronger, the hum turning into a low roar. The walls of the lab vibrated, glass cracked, and soldiers outside tightened their grip on their weapons. Fear spread for a moment, but no one left. No one dared to turn away. The humans had touched something the aliens had feared. The warlord's people had called it unstable, cursed, dangerous. They buried it in shame, afraid it would destroy them. But humans were not afraid of broken fire. They were ready to hold it, to tame it. This was the difference the warlord never understood. Humans did not run from danger. They learned from it. They grew with it. Mira raised her voice over the hum. "Increase the stabilizers. Do not fight. The energy, guide it." Her team obeyed, hands flying across controls, sweat dripping from their brows. One wrong move could mean disaster, but no one hesitated. The core pulsed again, brighter, stronger, as if it was listening to them. For a moment it seemed to resist, wild and violent, but then, slowly, it calmed. The glow evened out. The roar softened into a steady thrum. The core had accepted them. Silence filled the room. Only the deep vibration of the awakened core remained. Everyone stared in disbelief. Breaths held. Then, like a flood breaking through a dam, cheers erupted. Scientists hugged. Soldiers shouted. Even Dr. Kane allowed himself a trembling smile. For the first time since the warlord's invasion, victory did not feel like a dream. It felt real. It felt close. News spread quickly through hidden channels across Earth and its colonies. The broken gift was awake. Humanity had pulled power from the ashes. People whispered the word awakening as if it was holy. Families in ruined cities lifted their heads. Soldiers in dark trenches clenched their fists. Children laughed again. Not from ignorance, but from hope. The spirit of humanity was no longer just burning, it was roaring. The alien warlord did not know. He sat upon his throne, surrounded by riches stolen from 100 worlds. He mocked the memory of humans, calling them fragile creatures. He drank to his victory, blind to the storm rising against him because far away, the gift he had thrown as a joke was becoming his greatest mistake. Back in the lab, Mira and Kane studied the awakened core. The readings revealed a truth more terrifying than they expected. This was not simply energy. It was a gateway, a foundation, for new machines, engines that could move faster than light, weapons that could pierce the strongest armor. It was not just a weapon. It was a future. The warlord had handed humanity the key to surpassing his entire empire, Mira whispered. He thought he gave us nothing, but he gave us everything. Dr. Kane nodded, though worry still clouded his face. We must be careful. Power this great can save us, but it can also destroy us. His words were wise, but everyone in the room already knew the risk. The choice was made the moment the core awakened. There was no turning back. The weeks that followed were filled with feverish work. New designs were drafted, human ships tested fragments of the awakened technology. Engines hummed louder, weapons struck harder, shields glowed brighter. Each day, the human fleet grew, small at first but sharper and smarter than before. The broken gift had not only given them power, it had given them unity. Every scientist, every soldier, every worker carried the same thought. We will rise again. And rise they did. Hidden, fleets launched into the dark, training in silence. Preparing for the day of reckoning, pilots whispered to each other, "We fly with the gift." Soldiers touched their weapons and said, "This was born from the core." Even civilians felt it. The awakening was not just in machines, it was in the people themselves. They no longer saw themselves as victims. They saw themselves as survivors, as fighters. The alien warlord would hear soon. He would hear of ships faster than his, weapons sharper than his, soldiers braver than his. He would hear that the gift he gave to mock humanity had become the sword aimed at his throat, but by then it would be too late. In the quiet of the lab, Mira stood before the awakened core one last time that night. Her reflection shimmered in its glow. Her eyes filled with determination. "We are ready," she whispered, "and we will never be broken again." The awakening was complete, and, with it, humanity had been reborn. The day came when silence was no longer enough. For months humanity had worked in shadows, shaping ships, testing weapons, training soldiers. Now the awakened core had become more than light. It had become fire. That fire spread through every fleet, every base, every hidden colony, and humanity was ready to strike back. The alien warlord still believed Earth was broken. His fleets moved carelessly. Soldiers laughed as they raided the edges of human space. He did not bother to watch closely, for he thought nothing dangerous could come from ashes. But arrogance blinds even the strongest, and he was about to see what humans had become from. The dark side of Earth's moon, the first human fleet rose. Not massive, not endless, but sharp, fast, and alive with new power. Engines hummed with energy born from the broken gift. Weapons glowed with light no alien had ever seen. Every pilot whispered the same promise before launch: for Earth, for humanity, for the fallen. The first battle came without warning. An alien cruiser, massive and proud, entered a human colony. Its commander laughed as he saw only a few small human ships. He thought it would be easy, another victory, another joke. But when the fight began, the laughter ended. The human ships moved like shadows, faster than the alien sensors could track. Their engines, powered by the awakened core's secrets, bent space in ways alien ships had never imagined. Missiles struck, energy beams tore through armor. The cruiser roared in pain as fire spread across its decks. The alien commander shouted orders, but it was too late. The humans were no longer prey, they were hunters. Within minutes, the massive cruiser fell. It collapsed in flames, its wreckage. Scattering into the void, the human pilots cheered, their voices shaking with victory. It was not just a battle won, it was proof. Proof that humanity could fight back. Proof that the warlord's gift had turned into his curse. News of the counterattack spread like fire through human colonies. For the first time since the war began, the people smiled with pride. They whispered to each other, "We can win." The fear that once chained their hearts was broken, replaced by courage. Children shouted the names of the pilots. Families sang songs of resistance. The warlord had created fear, but humanity had transformed fear into fury. Battle after battle followed. Human fleets appeared where aliens least expected. They struck quickly, vanished into shadows, and struck again. Like wolves surrounding a giant beast, they cut the empire piece by piece. Every alien loss sent shockwaves back to the warlord's throne. Reports came of destroyed cruisers, fallen commanders, entire fleets humiliated. And with every report, the warlord's pride cracked. He roared in anger, smashing his throne with armored fists. "How dare they rise again?" he shouted. "They are nothing but insects." But even as he raged, his generals shifted nervously. Because insects do. Not bring down giants, yet humans were doing exactly that. Back on Earth, Mira stood at the command center. She watched the glowing screens of each victory, her heart heavy yet proud. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. Dr. Kane, standing beside her, nodded with tired eyes. "The warlord thought he gave us shame," Kane said. "But he gave us a reason." The counterattacks grew bolder. Human fleets pushed deeper into alien space, targeting supply lines, cutting communication. Every strike weakened the empire. Every victory made humanity stronger. The warlord had thought he ended their story. But now he realized the truth. He had written the first chapter of his own defeat. In the shadows of space, human ships glowed with new power. Their pilots carried unshakable spirit, their engineers carried endless determination, and their leaders carried the will of billions who refused to bow. The broken gift had become a sword, and that sword was now at the warlord's throat. Yet, humanity knew the fight was not finished. The Empire still had countless fleets, weapons that could shatter worlds. The warlord himself was still alive. Burning with rage, the final battle had not yet come, but the humans were no longer afraid. They had tasted victory. They had seen their strength, and they were ready for whatever storm was coming. In the deep silence of space, as wreckage of alien ships drifted like ghosts, Mira looked into the stars and whispered, "We were mocked, we were broken, but now we rise, and we will not stop until the warlord falls." The counterattack was only the beginning. The real war was about to start. The alien warlord sat upon his throne of steel, his voice shaking the great hall. Reports of defeat filled the air, one after another, alien commanders kneeling in shame. His fleets had fallen to human attacks, his cruisers burned, his soldiers humiliated. The laughter he once enjoyed was gone, replaced by silence and fear. The humans, the insects he mocked, were striking at the heart of his empire. He rose, his armor glowing red under the firelight. "I gave them a broken toy," he roared. "A joke, an insult, nothing more. How did they turn it into fire? How did they turn it into war?" But no answer came, because no alien understood what had happened. Only the humans knew the truth. They had taken the broken gift and turned it into their future. In the cold depths of space, the human fleet gathered, dozens of ships, small compared to the Empire's giants, but alive with new power. Engines burned with the light of the awakened core. Weapons hummed with dangerous energy. Every pilot knew what was at stake. Every soldier whispered the same words. "This ends tonight." At the center of it all stood Mira, no longer just an engineer. She had become a leader, a symbol of humanity's defiance. Her eyes locked on the screen where the warlord's fortress ship appeared. It was enormous, larger than any human city, a floating mountain of death. But Mira's voice was calm as she spoke. "Remember who we are. Remember what we fight for. This battle is not for revenge. It is for survival." The final war began. Alien guns fired first, their beams tearing across the void. But the human ships moved like lightning, weaving through destruction. Their weapons struck back, burning through armor once thought unbreakable. Explosions lit the stars, metal screamed, and the warlord's fleets trembled. Inside his fortress, the warlord watched in fury. "How can they fight like this? How can they rise again?" he shouted. His generals tried to answer, but he silenced them with rage. He could not understand because he had never faced an enemy like this. He had faced strength before. He had faced power before. But he had never faced the human spirit. The battle raged for hours, ships falling on both sides, but for every human vessel lost, another struck harder, faster, with more fury. Their will was unbreakable, their unity unshakable. It was as if the entire species fought through every pilot, every soldier, every engineer. The warlord's fleets began to collapse, and for the first time in his reign, he felt fear. Finally, Mira gave the order. "All ships, target the fortress." Engines roared, weapons charged. The fleet moved as one. The alien fortress trembled as wave after wave of human fire struck its shields. The warlord stood tall, his teeth bared, refusing to believe he could lose. But deep inside, he knew the truth. On the bridge of her ship, Mira whispered, "This is the lesson you never learned. We are not strong because our weapons are perfect. We are strong because we refuse to stop, even when all we have is broken pieces." The final strike came. The awakened core's power channeled into a single weapon, glowing brighter than any star. With one command, humanity unleashed it. The beam cut through the fortress like a knife through stone. Explosions tore across its body. Flames devoured its heart. The alien warlord fell to his knees as his throne shattered. His last thoughts were bitter. He remembered the day he mocked them, the day he threw the broken gift at their feet. He remembered his laughter, his pride, his arrogance, and he realized too late what he gave as an insult had become his undoing. What he thought was useless had become the weapon of his death. As the fortress burned and the warlord's empire crumbled, the human fleet stood victorious. The stars were filled with fire, but in that fire there was hope. Humanity had risen from ashes. They had turned despair into strength. They had proven a truth that no alien could deny. The final lesson was clear. Humans were not special because of their weapons or their ships. They were special because they could see power where others saw nothing, because they could take broken things and make them whole, because they could turn insults into victories and defeat into destiny. Mira stood before her people, the glow of the battlefield shining behind her. Her voice carried across every channel, every colony, every heart. We were mocked, we were broken, but we endured. We found power where none was given, and we will carry this spirit into every star, because we are humanity and we will never bow. The galaxy was silent for a moment. Then cheers erupted, louder than thunder, stronger than war. The humans had won, not only a battle, but their place among the stars. And the warlord's broken gift, once a symbol of shame, had become the key to a future without fear. The final lesson echoed through the stars. Never underestimate humanity, for even in brokenness, they find power, and from the smallest spark, they can build a fire that burns empires.